real quick. All right. Quick question here. Can you guys hear me through the stream now?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, fuck. I don't know what happened there. My bad, everyone. Shit. So yeah, that whole few minutes that we just started talking to the unknown, I'll edit the video out. Oops. Yeah, my bad.
Jeez.
Oh well.
They missed some funny shit.
Yeah, they missed some funny shit, thank God. Anyways, we'll edit that out initially. This is where the podcast actually starts. I won't do intros just cause fuck it.
You already know who we are.
Yeah, unless we have a
what
special.
were we talking about?
We were mostly talking about the whole like EV cars and then how Americans are trying to compete with the EV market, and it's just absolutely eating dicks.
Damn, bro. So vulgar.
Indeed, he's not wrong though.
It's not wrong.
I like it.
Well, it's not just Americans. It's literally everybody, really.
Yeah,
Everybody aside from Tesla and China.
Yeah. But yeah, it's even like Toyota too, who was supposed to be like the main competition for Tesla too, have not done well when it comes to making EVs.
I wouldn't even consider them the main competition.
That was in this case the supposed like prediction.
Well, just because they're the largest car company doesn't necessarily mean they can quickly shift to a different product or technology, and it shows.
Yeah, like a lot of people like in general, would you even like really say too that like with like people's assumption that it would make sense that Toyota should be able to go full EV no problem?
I mean, you think because of their size they'll be able to, but you gotta take into consideration the way they make cars is not suitable for a drastic shift.
Yeah.
You know, because making EV cars is not the same as making a normal car.
Yeah. And clearly it does show too whenever like we see Elon making a tour around his Tesla gigafactories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like holy shit.
Yeah.
And what I'm really getting at with the point of all this too is that like out of like a lot of the car companies that have been able to properly kind of adopt themselves into EV closely would have been like all the Korean car companies. But even if you take that with a grain of salt too, all the Korean companies don't even come close to like the margins and the sales volume that Tesla still generate.
Absolutely no company can come close to Tesla in terms of price.
Come to price and even
also
specs.
Also the margin they make as well, and also specs, yes.
Like, it's one of those things too that like, how did Tesla get so much a lead advantage? And it's just like, it's pretty much like every other car company. At least this is my point of view from looking at this. It's because of the fact that they never actually like invested into this earlier on, or more earlier than Tesla would.
Every car company thought that the EV was just a fad, so they essentially didn't really pursue it as hard.
And look where we're at right now too, when like you actually have like Tesla fanboys owning cars, and they are practically projecting themselves as much as most car owners. Or probably worse. I don't know which one.
That's the problem. Here's the deal. All right, disclaimer, I do own a Tesla, but I'm not a fanboy.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I mean, are they really fanboys for trying to... Okay, not every owner is a fanboy. Let me just make that clear. I think what it really comes down is that Tesla just... the way they make cars, the process to buy a car, everything about just obtaining and owning a Tesla is just much simpler than going out to a dealership, buying a car, and then having it serviced every so often and all that. With a Tesla, I mean, the buying process was absolutely painless. You just, if the price is right, you just buy it, you just order the car and do everything else on the mobile app.
Yeah.
And then once you pick up your car, everything's on that mobile app. You need service, it's on the mobile app. You need to check all your stats on your car. Well, not all, but majority of stats on your car, it's on the mobile app. And also when you get in a Tesla, yeah, it's bland, yeah, it's minimal, yeah, there's essentially nothing. Everything's on a big screen, but it's that simplicity that just adds to in my eyes, the appeal of a Tesla. It's just everything's very simple. It's not easy to use, but it's very simple.
Yeah, and it really does like make a difference too, especially the way how you purchase cars with Tesla versus like any other cars. Only because one, I will say this as a hot or trash day, I fucking hate dealerships.
I'm sure everybody does, bro. And here's my conspiracy theory. I think Tesla has gotten really popular because people really hate dealerships.
That's what I'm thinking too. Like, I want to ask Lloyd this question though. When you bought your car, did you have to go through a dealership, or was it like?
I was not loaned, but I was passed. It was passed down from my mom.
Oh,
They went through the whole ordeal because they got it back in 2010 when it was brand new.
Oh, okay.
No, 2009 when the 2010 Corolla came out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So they did that. They bought it full price. Yeah, they went to a dealership. My mom had it for a couple years up until my senior year of high school, which was like 5 years later.
Yeah, and then if that's the case, since I had to go through that shit with the dealership with my dad. Luckily, he was there too because he knew like the traits about like how to negotiate or how to haggle for better like APRs and making sure that we're not getting ripped off by like any bullshit deals. But my god, we sat in like the dealership for 3+ hours and it fucking blew.
Yeah, that's ideal. That's ideal, bro. 3 hours. God. I remember when my dad bought his truck. When my dad bought a Ford truck back in the good old days. I think it was like a 2010 F-150. Doesn't matter, but it was back then. I think it took him like 3+ days to buy the truck, negotiating back and forth.
Jesus, I can't even imagine that, to be honest with you. And then it's just like you're talking mostly with like the sales rep too, a lot of times. And obviously
one guy.
Yeah, you talk with one guy. But really it's just like you go back and forth with it. In this case, they're trying to sell you up on the deals. Given I don't hate the people that are working with dealerships, but I really do hate the practices that a lot of the places do.
No, yeah, dude. Like all shady stuff.
And obviously, the point of like the dealerships is so that one, you provide like a way for a customer to not be like scammed out by like the manufacturers, right? That was just like the thought process back in the day.
That was apparently the intention, but nowadays it's different. So I don't see that at all. I don't see dealerships protecting the consumer at all.
Yeah, because like you see like the more recent headline news where like GM and like Ford were like cracking down on their own dealerships because they were like marking up like their vehicles by like 20 or even like 50% higher than what it was manufactured or whatever they bought initially. And because of that too, it did affect a lot of like the sales number, obviously, because like holy fuck, why would anyone buy like that expensive ass truck by like a 50% markup just because? Now, people can really say too that like, oh, maybe that markup like insinuates like all the other features and titles and a lot of technology that goes behind it. No, there are some cases they investigated. Not, it was just like a straight up like, we just want to increase the price. That's it.
Yeah. That time when cars were just marked up, they were literally marked up for no reason. There wasn't it was just a dealer markup because of quote unquote demand.
Yeah, and obviously, whichever dealerships, I don't care at that point. That's how they want to run business. But obviously, for the consumer, it's terrible for them to look at that. It's just like, that's fucking bullshit.
Dude, where's the protection, bro? They're not protecting us from anything.
Yeah, and it's just like now
you know what's worse? You know what's worse? After you actually buy the car, they always like they always like prey on you to bring your car into their dealership so you can service it for you and fix things and do all that for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's how dealers make majority of their money is through those kind of services, not from selling the car.
yeah. Like this could just be in general like how we kind of like normalize all this shit and like we kind of just accept it. But I don't know. It really is terrible. And I guess that's also like I think your conspiracy theory of like why Tesla did really well too is because they didn't have a dealership where yeah, I think a lot of people were just like tired of like dealing with dealerships to begin with.
And I think Tesla, aside from making EVs that a lot of people are buying, they also, their system of buying a car really exposes like how terrible dealerships are. I mean, we knew how terrible they are, but
It's just the
I
fact
think
that
I think
famous
after you buy a car from Tesla, you really understand truly how terrible a dealership is.
oh man. I I hope this does change. I do hope that in this case Tesla does do what it did from early on to where it was just like a trendsetter by like breaking up the automotive market.
It still is. It is currently doing that. I mean, it's breaking
Yeah.
up the automotive market and it's going to break up the dealership market too.
Yeah. I don't know. And I think a lot of times too, a lot of like the American car companies and manufacturers, they're planning on trying to like at least not use dealerships and try to like make people buy cars directly from the manufacturer. Which, if anything, there's a lot of apparently there's a lot of laws that kind of stop them from doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, every state, I mean not every state, some states allow it, but a lot of states do have laws that protect dealerships. So
Yeah.
in those states, car companies won't be able to sell directly to consumer. Texas is actually one of them. So,
Yeah.
So in Texas, we have to buy our cars through dealerships.
Mm-hmm. And
And
it's
and here's the interesting thing. We can still, in here in Texas, we can still buy Tesla, which is how I got one. However, the way it technically works is that you're not buying a car.
yeah.
You're not buying a new car. You're buying it's a weird I can't explain it. It's a very weird process.
It's essentially you're buying like a
Because-
piece of tech, right?
I mean, it's still a car. You got to get a title, register, and everything. It's still a car
Mhm.
by definition. It's just, you're not technically, I mean, I think you're buying it as a, I don't know. It's weird. Never mind. Let's continue on. It's weird.
Like, if anything, that
It's hard
alone
to
is
explain.
already that alone should already be enough to really differentiate about like differences of buying a Tesla versus a car. Tesla itself, like even though it is a car, there's a lot of like special classification cases that Teslas do have that kind of like supersedes a lot of laws that forces onto like consumers that they can only buy a car through a dealership.
Yeah. Hey, okay. Technically, you're buying from another. It's like you're buying a car from another person, kind of.
Yeah.
Because once
Which-
you actually get the car, you have to do the title transfer and the registration and all that, like you just bought a car from someone else.
Yeah.
Because they're not a dealer, so they don't handle any of that. So it's weird. Very
Yeah,
weird.
it's very weird. But albeit let's be honest, it's honestly better than just talking with the dealership people to begin with.
But at the same time, I'm gonna be honest, it was the next absolutely painless process to do that title transfer for me. So I'm not mad.
Yeah. And oh my god. This is also another thing too that I want to point out as well. Even though there's like a lot of demand right now for EVs, especially gas prices are coming up to holy fuck, it's like around $3.40 in my area now.
Yep.
Man.
Don't know that feeling anymore.
Well, fuck you. But anyways, to bring on to the what I was about to say though, the only other issue even though there's a lot of like consumer demand for EVs too, there's a lot of times specific dealerships just don't have those EVs in stock. Like for example, I looked into trying to get a Hyundai Ioniq 6 at some point too. Problem is that the nearest Hyundai dealership that I looked at too did not have any at stock, and the thing would be is that I would technically have to like quote unquote place the order, but really all I want to do is like I want to like test drive the car and then maybe perhaps buy it as well. And the issue with that is there's going to be a lot of like cost going up to do a transaction like that to begin with.
What do you mean?
Like I remember looking at it too when I saw like people that wanted to purchase an Ioniq 6 and their local dealership did not have it. They dealership slapped on like a increase of cost to buy the car just because they had to
Okay.
ship it from another area to this dealership.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
that's
more like
just- that's transport fees. Yeah.
yeah, that is pretty much that.
Transport fees. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, God, fuck. Yeah, if anything, right now, this is also sort of less why Teslas are looking like a very available or quite an enticing option for people to switch to, just because of the fact that it's
because
easily
they are the only option at this point.
Yeah, they are the only options, and it's something that, like, for me, I feel it feels terrible for, but at the same time, I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, no, I understand that having one company monopolize like an industry is very terrible.
Yeah,
But at the same time, no other car company is able to compete or is willing to compete. So
yeah,
is that the fault of Tesla for that?
yeah.
For being a monopoly?
Yeah, that's why it's like the whole argument is like when I hear people say, "Oh, Tesla is trying to be a monopoly. We need to support all the other EV brands," and it's like we can try, but holy fuck! Did you see how bad VinFast actually went down once people started driving that shit?
Let's not talk about VinFast.
Oh my god!
Something worse than Chinese cars.
Oh man. Long story short, VinFast, like, it was hyped up because of the fact that a lot of like the Vietnamese community were supporting it because it was like a Vietnamese owned company that had like German engineering. The problem that we saw early on was that they had a very weird and interesting way how they were leasing out vehicles.
No, you lease out the battery, which is the first weird thing.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the worst thing about the car. That was one of
Yeah.
the terrible things, yeah, but that wasn't the worst things. The other worst things are software issues, which is always the biggest problems in modern cars. Software
Yeah.
issues. You can't make a good software for your car, bro. That's it. Your car's
Yeah.
done.
And there's also
And
like
also, I know I heard a lot of mechanical issues too, like ride quality is terrible and a lot of
Mhm.
rattles and all that stuff. So no, that car is very bad in its current form.
Yeah, people were like hyping this up to be like the Tesla like competitor. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, this was bound to happen.
There is no real Tesla competitor. I mean, if
Yeah.
Hyundai can pick up their slack, then
Yeah.
Hyundai will definitely be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there is somewhat hope too because they are building a factory over here, but then it's still the problem of like batteries that they're sourcing it from.
Yeah, that's the other issue. Tesla has an advantage because they make a lot of things in house, while a lot of other car suppliers have to, a lot of other car manufacturers have suppliers, external suppliers, which
Yeah,
will inevitably raise costs because the more middlemen you have, the more price is gonna get raised.
just because they also want a piece of the pie too, and it's just like you're.
Yeah.
And then it's also something to make note of too. Is like, oh man, why our cars are getting way more expensive? It's also because like all the technology and all of like the stuff that goes into it too. Most of it is not surprisingly not built in house, and it's like no shocking surprise either. None of it is
Mhm.
really built in house too. A lot of it is like they import it from like other like microchip factories or like just electronics hardware like suppliers that provide them the
I
specifications they
mean,
need.
everything, like almost everything, is like from an external
Outsourced.
supplier. That's the thing.
Yeah. Which, if anything, Toyota apparently like we took away like the fact that the EV market exists now, that's what made Toyota for where it was too, was the fact that they managed to streamline a lot of like the suppliers that they had and still managed to keep a low price. But now the EV market's come around too, that's just gonna be like, well, we gotta get our old asses off of these like comfy chairs and try to actually fucking figure this out before we are actually gone.
But that's I don't think traditional car companies can compete because, like I said, they only use external suppliers, and that is
One
a
of the bigger
heavy cost.
yeah, it has
Because
currently big disadvantage.
with Teslas, they have a huge margin with every
Mm.
car,
Yeah,
like way more than any other gas car.
yeah.
So
if
even if Tesla continues cutting prices, which they have been doing, they continue to cut prices, they still have a very huge margin for the cars they make, which is
yeah,
amazing in my eyes, honestly.
yeah, the fact that like they can undersell their cars too, and a lot of people are just saying too, oh man, they're just slashing their own prices to like get an edge on the market. I was like, I mean, you can't
Yes,
even
that's how
call
that
them out
works.
for that. Yeah, I mean, you can't even call them out for that too, or why is that a bad thing?
It's not. It's making it cheaper for everyone. That's the thing. See,
Yeah,
Teslas have no real competition, but they're still slashing prices.
yeah, and it's just like,
Imagine that.
yeah, man, that kind of throws a supply and demand like idea mindset like out the window when you look at the way how Tesla is like handling like pricing their products.
Because Elon Musk has said that he wants people to buy EVs. It's not about making money because he already makes plenty of money even though he slashes prices. So it's
Yeah,
just about getting EVs to people's hands. That's what he wants to do.
yeah, and I think this is the part where we gotta start like ramming our opinions to specific car companies too, such as like Toyota, Lexus, and all the other car companies too. I will say this: my initial comment with Chrysler, it still stands true. To anyone that still supports them, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, their cars are hot trash.
Yeah, like I've I've watched enough videos about people complaining about it, and even my coworkers themselves too. Like they had like a Chrysler truck too, immediately traded it in, just to be like, it is fucking terrible. Like for something that's like looking at the way how American car companies too, how they develop a car, especially where the country that is very car dependent as well. How the fuck do Americans just suck at building cars? And even like Chrysler is like the worst. Ford and other like Ford itself is comparably a better car company than Chrysler. And I still think Ford is trash.
No American brands are trash, but yes, GM and Ford are less trash than Chrysler.
Which is saying a lot. And I guess this is also sort of less to like you see a lot of like normal like everyday drivers who they kind of drive like a lot of the brands that are not like from America as well. A lot of it is like Acura, Nissan, Honda, Hyundai, Lexus, and
But
Toyota.
the biggest seller would be Toyota.
Yeah, man, that whole legacy prophecy that keeps them to this day. All their cars are just super reliable, and that
You know, in the past, yes, they were definitely reliable in the past. My dad drives an '07 Corolla, and he's still driving it now, and it's still going strong. But nowadays, I'm not too sure because they have been on a push to adopt more technology,
mhm.
but I'm not sure how well they implement it. So I'm not sure about the reliability in today's day and age because I know the Tundra, the new generation Tundra that came out had a lot of problems with their turbo engines.
Yeah, and I think from what they've said too, it was mostly like who they were sourcing it from was the issue. But I guess that's pretty much it's going to be the issue that's going to be plaguing a lot of like these car companies too that have outsourced a lot of their production. Like, if anything, they in this case too, they can be in charge of like putting the cars together. But a lot of the parts that they get that are outsourced too, they're gonna be like either you're gonna get mixed bags of their quality drops too, and that's just gonna affect the rest of the main production, or everything
Yeah,
else becomes mundane or like outdated technology when one supplier just has like the new cutting edge stuff and they're sourcing from that. Like it's very
yeah,
interesting.
Mm.
yeah.
Which is
It's not I mean, you can't control quality when you buy from a supplier. That's the issue.
Yeah, and right now, if anything, if you debate with someone about it too, I still think in most cases, people would still like purchase a Toyota car still over like everything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying they're not reliable. They're
Mhm.
definitely more reliable than every other car. They're just not as reliable as they were.
Yeah. Were is the key phrasing here. And right now, there's a whole like this is or let's going into other topics that may not be pertaining to cars, but it deals with like the Toyota CEO. The old CEO that was there beforehand too really wanted to like push for hybrid cars. That was like his stance on this whole thing too. But due to the fact that everybody else is trying to like go onto this EV market race too, I'm at the opinion too, maybe Toyota going hybrid might have not been a terrible decision still.
Here's the thing, though. I do agree that the switch, the electrification should have happened gradually. We should have been predominantly hybrid before we went EV.
Mm-hmm.
But the current issue we have now is that climate change is a real thing and that we need to switch over to renewable sources of any kind as soon as possible.
Yeah. So if this was something that like again that we were more accepting of hybrid vehicles and we would like at least accept the problems that it did occur to, eventually they would have gotten better in the end.
Problem, I mean, Toyota hybrids are good. They are really good. They just weren't marketed as heavily as their gas cars, and no other car company wanted to do hybrids. Want to
For
do that many hybrids because Toyota's. I think Toyota has the most hybrids or something
yeah,
like that.
uh, someone could fact check us later. Or I could fact
But
check.
either way,
this.
they have a ton of hybrids. I
Mhm.
know they have more hybrids than a lot of other car companies I've seen. So, and their hybrids are very good. Their system is well designed. I mean, they've been making the Prius since like what 20 plus years now,
Mhm.
something like that, for a long time. So
Yeah.
they have the knowledge to build hybrids. It just wasn't marketed as hard as normal cars.
Yeah, and it's a shame too. Like I probably would have thought about like getting a hybrid car like if I've known better or if we had known better too that the gas prices were just gonna go absolutely like terrible and everywhere.
But that's the thing though, gas prices have always gone up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, I've driven a CX-9, a Mazda CX-9, like a big SUV, during the
Mhm.
time when gas was nearing $5.
Man.
That was
God.
a pretty sight, man.
Holy shit.
Those were tough times.
Especially CX-9.
And that thing is
Yeah.
not fuel efficient.
Yeah, okay.
Just
And also
not.
rest in peace, Mazda. God.
Mazda's a real joke now. God damn.
God. What happened really? Because there was a whole point to it that like Mazda
Because they
itself
have the
was
Japanese mindset, bro. They have the
Mhm.
Japanese mindset that they just don't want to adopt EVs. It's so bizarre. All Japanese do not want EVs. It makes no sense to me. Like they
Yeah.
only want gas. My
And-
problem is Japan has to import their gas. Why they want gas cars so badly?
Here's the other thing that I've also heard too from like the Japanese side as well, where Toyota themselves, even though like yes, there's a lot of gas cars that they're doing, a lot of it there's like a fringe like R&D department that is still trying to like help Japan like adopt like a hydrogen like market, which is like what?
I mean, I understand that, but let me be completely honest and say that hydrogen is not going to work out in other countries like America and stuff.
Yeah, just because like, man,
We already have an infrastructure for electric vehicles.
yeah.
Tesla has the largest charging network in our country right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of other companies like Electrify America, EVgo, and all that building more charging stations in America. So
Mhm.
we have plenty of charging infrastructure here. And to do the same thing with hydrogen, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, and this is also another thing too that a lot of car companies, especially too, that aren't doing well with is that they're not really contributing, or in this case, they are trying to create like their own like charging network too to like compete with Tesla. But the problem is the fact that again, they were too late on the game, and like
Yeah,
they're
I
trying to
think
make
Tesla
all this stuff.
expanded way too quickly. Was able to expand their supercharging network very quickly, so other car companies and other like EV charging companies have a hard time competing.
Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty much a shame, really, but it all ended up happening this way too. Look, it's even to the point where some of these car companies already admitted defeat on that too. Where right now there's a new policy and change too that made it so that every future car or electric vehicles coming out from a lot of these car companies will be compatible with the Tesla superchargers now. Like their ports itself will just change it into that. They're not going to provide you an adapter for that anymore. It's just going to be able to charge directly straight from it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I see that as a way that like they admitted defeat, although it shouldn't have been this way. But we are where we're at right now
But
with cars.
but do you see it as defeat, or do you see it as a standardization that people need
I see it as
instead
a
of
standard.
having like instead of having like 30 different charging types that are not compatible with each other?
It reminds me similar to how we finally come across like the best connection port, which is the USB-C.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, if anything, it's better on the consumer to have this, right? But for every other company too that wanted to like be able to dominate the market too, yeah, they just lost their chance for that. This is good for
I mean,
us.
they
Though.
had no chance to dominate if they
Yeah.
already like if they already saw Tesla as a fad.
Yeah. Oof. Remember the Toys R Us?
Oh yeah, when they thought the internet was a fad too.
Yep. Oops.
I mean, every store that thought the internet was a fad really just went out of business.
God damn. And then right now, this is where we're at too. And now let's go move on to this one because we talked for EV for extensive bit here. We're gonna move on to the other topic that I will pick a bone with, which is trucks and SUVs. Holy fuck.
Yes. The main thing is the dangers of trucks and SUVs because those boys are pretty big.
They're huge. But let's go into the backgrounds of like how SUVs came to exist to begin with. Originally, too, SUV classification wasn't actually a thing until I believe it was the late 90s that you started seeing more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was only because of the fact that back then they were trying to cut down on a lot of like gas emissions too by like class car types. What ended up happening was that some car companies were repurposing a lot of their pickup trucks and like their big size trucks and just adding a extension of the roof over to the back of the trunk and calling that a new class car SUV so that it kind of avoided a lot of standards initially.
Yeah.
That was the initial case of the SUV's existence. And they market it as like a family car when in reality it's just a pickup truck that has a longer hood.
And 2 more seats.
Yeah, and 2 more seats.
Or 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3. But then no one buys like the actual fucking vans. Everyone will get an SUV, even though a van would technically serve the same purpose as well.
A van would technically be a lot more easier to use than an SUV. And this is also from my own personal experience.
Yeah, jeez. Now, I've driven already a truck right now too, whenever I worked in Florida for a bit. And let me say this for a certain too. I was very much more mindful of like how fucking big this truck is on the road versus if I was driving a sedan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never felt so uncomfortable driving a truck too. It's not even for the fact that it's like been a while that I've driven one to begin with. It was just like the sheer size that I have. I'm just like, I don't like this. But then it's the opposite.
Real American.
True, but it's also apparently the
Look,
opposite for other people, where their
it is.
reasoning of why they buy trucks and SUV because they want to feel safer in the vehicles.
The problem is, I used to drive a truck as well, an F-150. Like I said, my parents bought an F-150 back then.
Hmm.
It was I enjoyed driving that truck a lot. Like
Hmm.
I actually enjoyed it. Even though it was big, even though it was like hard to get into places, I truly enjoy driving that truck.
Yeah,
It's
and
like once you get used to it, you just really enjoy just being so high up, being above everyone.
yeah, having a superiority complex. Come get your truck in today's month in truck month. Your
Truck
wife
month.
left you, buy a truck. You have a small pecker, buy an F-250. God damn. I don't know. There's like a whole like stigma when it comes for people that buy like the full size like trucks. Like that's the only issue that I see right now. It's not like trucks themselves I don't have a problem with. It's like for people that buy like the big full size trucks is
No,
what
I
I have
think
with.
okay, hold on. I think the biggest problem I have with people with trucks is they buy trucks just to have them and not actually use them for their intended purpose.
Yeah. And obviously you can make the argument that like you don't have to like use the car for its intended purpose for that. And I'm like, okay, so why the fuck did you drop like a $100,000 for this fucking
So I mean,
gigantic
if you don't
truck?
have, well, why'd you buy a car? Why'd you buy a truck then, and not just like an SUV? You
Yeah.
know, like if you're not gonna use a truck to tow things or to haul things, why are you getting a truck? Just get an SUV. You can get more
Y-
utility out of that. It makes no
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And I don't know. A lot of people like at this point for those that do argue that way, just be honest. Just say that you like trucks. That's perfectly fine. I would have accepted that answer. I'll just say your opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
But really, I don't know. The whole trucks itself, like, again, it's too massive as well too, and it's like it endangers a lot of people around them. Is the thing here, but it's like, oh, that
Yeah.
wouldn't be a problem if everybody else gets a truck. Well, now you have the same issue still. Now the fact that you just have two massive ass vehicles coming at each other.
All right, well, you tell me now. How do you feel about driving around all these big trucks and SUVs?
I don't mind. Granted, I didn't drive a big truck. I drove like a Nissan Frontier. It's like very small compared to the F-150s and the Tundras. But
Hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed driving that little pickup truck for the month and a half I did.
So you
Mm.
It was
don't
fun.
feel at all in danger whenever there's a big truck next to you?
No, not really. Just I mean, it's just a big truck. It really just depends on who drives it. If they have a big truck, they drive it safely. That's the whole point of a fucking vehicle, and not to endanger people.
Hmm.
You drive safely, there's no problem with me.
Only issue right now is that more times or not to, this is more or less making a correlation about this. People that end up do buying this truck and saying that they use it to feel safe, they're not good drivers to begin
Well,
with.
that's a whole different issue.
Yeah. Which, if
I
anything,
do
that
have to
just
agree with that. But that is the problem because the bad drivers are the one buying these big vehicles.
and like you can really say too, like if you can make the argument that's like I'm actually a really good safe driver too, and it's just like cool, you could just drive any other car too, and you wouldn't have to worry about shit to begin with. But the problem being is that again, you have like bad drivers that think they're good drivers, i.e., me. And yeah, do you have people that think they're good drivers, right? And obviously it ends up like showing differently on the road where they're just becoming a fucking menace on the highway. I've seen those people too. God damn it. Every time I see a truck that just cuts in front of me without lights and it's like near inches away from my car, it fucking scares the shit out of me.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah,
not
that
even just
happens a
trucks,
lot,
it's
even with
SUVs
normal
too.
cars. Just
Yeah.
any car, bro. Any driver would do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes to show too, like I feel like there should be like more ways to like kind of like make sure people are actually driving safer to begin with. Not the vehicle itself needs to be driven safer, but people need to drive safer. because all these features that are being put into these cars as well too, I don't mind these features at all too. But again, it's for like again people that are driving terribly that they need to have these features so that one they don't fucking murder someone on the road or they don't kill anybody or themselves.
Hmm. I agree.
And my god. And to really say too, they're like, oh, but if I'll feel protected if I just get hit. If I get hit too, my car would be fine too. Lady, if that's the case, as or lady or gentleman or they, I don't know how people identify themselves anymore. But
Mhm.
whoever is a person that is the driver as well too, if you get hit by another slightly sized vehicle too, it's not gonna matter too much on how the vehicle is going to be like built to protect you. That's still like a 2.5 ton like vehicle coming at you at roughly between like 40 to 60 miles per hour average wise.
Yes, physics tells us that the greater the mass, the bigger the impact.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just a lot more destructive like shit coming at the person. And it's also a showcase too. Like you see a lot of like car accidents that happen with like SUVs or like big like vehicles with each other. It's just scary as shit. I've seen an SUV that got flipped over. I'm like, how? And I see the truck that it hit. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And it's even worse for like other like smaller cars too that get hit by them. The car you're riding in will be safe too, but that car is fucking gone. And it's just like it's also probably a newer model car that also has the same amount of safety features as the next car, right? Or the next truck or SUV. It's just again, it doesn't prevent like dumb drivers from doing dumb shit. I see a lot of
Yeah,
videos
like
where
it's
it's just
like safety features are there to help you. They're not there. They're not self-driving cars, so
yeah.
it's
I
still up to the driver to drive responsibly.
Yeah, I still want to hope that self-driving car becomes a thing too. Just go that one. I know for sure that every car has self-driving capabilities, so that I can drive recklessly. No, I'm not incriminating myself. No, I'm not driving 90 miles per hour on a fucking freeway.
Yeah, he's not driving 90 miles on a freeway. He's driving 90 miles on a normal road,
Hell yeah, I am. But
a city road.
yeah, there was even a point too that like a lot of SUVs were being mandated to have all these safety features due to the fact that there was a previous report too of how many kids were getting hit by these big SUVs. And it wasn't even them like walking about or just normal driving. It was happening in like driveways at the people's own homes.
Mm,
It was just because of the fact
Why-
are
This is
so
why I
small.
believe every big car should have those like 360 cameras, 360-degree cameras.
Yeah, 360-degree cameras or sensors to like, hey, this is happening. And that's why all these cars do have that. It's because of like a lot of like the public are trying, or a lot of like the consumers are trying to like force them to like include these things into their vehicles.
Mhm.
And obviously it's going to drive up
They
cost.
should. They should, though. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the thing. The bigger your car, the less visibility you have. Or
Yeah.
the less visibility down low. Of
Yeah.
course, you'll have visibility all around you, but below you won't see anything.
Yeah. Well, just something that like you want to make sure that like you're able to fully be aware of your surroundings is the thing here, even those that you
Yeah.
can't see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, that was like a big issue that happened too, and a lot of like the YouTube content and channels that like criticize like SUVs, they do have a point too of like these SUVs, they don't make like the roads safer, or if anything they still make it just the same, like nothing gets changed. It's just the fact that the
Yeah.
intensity of the accidents gets increased.
Yeah. I mean, they are dangerous. I remember standing in front of a Ford F-250 Super Duty at one time, and I think the hood was almost taller than me.
Yeah, like you could barely you
Yeah,
could barely peek out.
I'm 5'7", so, and the top of the hood was literally almost at the top of my head. So that truck was pretty tall. And
Yeah,
that's
and
stock. That's not a modded truck. This was at a car show, so that's all like manufactured design.
yeah, and I remember too, like I was at the seat as well. I was just like, holy shit, I could barely see you over the hood. Given that if like 5'7" is like the average height, right? Holy
Something like
shit.
that.
Yeah. If let's just say for example, 5'7" is like the average height for most people, right? If you were sitting at the driver's side and that still happened, like even like yeah, no person would be able to get that close to you. What's to say to you that you would still be able to stop in time? Because that's also the other issue is that
But maybe
braking time
but
is
the
different.
stopping time, yeah, the stopping time is whatever. I mean, you should be able to see them. You're far away, you should see the person.
Yeah.
That's not my concern, honestly. But I
Mhm.
think when it comes to like being in a parking lot, maybe
Yeah.
somebody just walks in front of you and you didn't notice, and then you just start just pedal to the metal, bro. Step on the gas, and then you just run somebody over.
Yeah, like holy shit. It is also one of those cases too where like I feel like trucks and SUVs are even much more dangerous in a downtown setting where you
Oh yeah,
literally need to
because
make
there's like
sure.
literally no space. There's like no space in downtown to begin with.
Yeah, holy shit. I feel like the
I,
whole
w- I
city
wouldn't. I
planning
wouldn't
talk.
even. I wouldn't even drive a normal sedan in downtown. Honestly.
Like, yeah, I feel like the whole like driving around downtown area could be its own separate topic that we can touch
Yeah.
on. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
But to home back onto the point that we have about the trucks is that I, for one, think that like there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It is obviously the drivers at fault that give like trucks and SUVs like really bad rep. Just because in general SUVs are still good for what they are built to do. It's just the fact that sometimes people don't use
Yeah.
it what they're intended for.
Yeah, I mean, our cars are built with a purpose, and just people are just good at using it for not its intended purpose.
Yeah. But if that's the case too, a lot of times sometimes I hear like, oh, sometimes the trucks are too big and there's not a lot of like car companies that make like the midsize or even like the small crossover trucks anymore. I want those back, actually. Where they're like trucks
They
the
do.
size
They're
of a
small trucks.
sedan that they just have a long ass trunk bed.
Yeah, they do. Oh, I mean, like
Like
not a
it was
long bed, but there are smart. There are small trucks again.
yeah, which is perfectly fine. I don't mind those at all. If anything, I feel like they are something that like I think we need to see a more resurgence of like consumer buying these types of trucks again.
Yeah, I think people are buying more small trucks only because they're more affordable. You know, and people are buying up the Maverick a lot
Yeah.
because it's cheap.
The Ford Maverick.
And my
You
dad's
have a
thinking about buying one, so you know, like I mean,
my
really, price is the only factor here.
yeah. Here at least is my hot take about that as well. This is going to Suzuki and all the other Japanese car companies that we don't hear a lot of. Please sell your K trucks over here. I saw one in Florida and I absolutely loved it when I saw it. And I was like, I want
Yeah,
that.
I don't think they're gonna sell, bro. You just
I
gotta
know.
import it.
I know, but it's just like, and here's the thing: I don't think it will actually ever fucking sell or sell that well either, too. Just because the top speed of that K truck or a lot of K trucks are like what 60 miles per hour average wise. That's their top speed.
Yeah, I wouldn't drive that on a highway.
Yeah, but obviously for like other purposes that it has for it too, it's quite honestly good, especially if you do like a lot of local travel too.
Yeah, but you know,
Mm.
that's not always the case. You go on,
Yeah, it's
you
not
go on
always
the
the
highway
case.
more often than you imagine.
Yeah, I know, but this is just me having like my hot take. Like, please let me buy their K trucks over here. I don't want to pay the import tax, but if I have to, fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like in some cases too, maybe we'll see the K trucks make a comeback over here, but they'll probably be rebranded to something else, maybe more electrified or some shit. Like, I want to see like more vehicles similar of like those type of use purposes in America, just because I feel like that has more use cases in like
I feel like
if you look at it locally.
technically the old like Toyota Tacomas and the old Nissan Frontiers and stuff like that, when they had like just a single cab with a long bed.
Yeah,
I think those were the American K trucks. problem is all these trucks have gotten bigger nowadays.
Yeah, and it's just because of the fact that one, the engines are fucking huge. Ever seen one in person?
I mean, like Tacoma trucks are still 4 cylinders. I mean,
Four
some of them have V6.
Mm. But even then, too, like a lot of engines or modern engines, too, the matter even if it's like a V6, I think, yeah, actually up to the V6, you start noticing like the sizes get way bigger. But it's probably because of the fact more
Well, I
pistons,
mean,
more
yeah,
liters of
more
bit power.
pistons, right, come on, bro.
Yeah, I know, but still, there's also a lot of the
Technically, engines have
hardware
gotten
stuff.
smaller
Technically,
because
But-
a lot of car companies are downsizing their car engines.
yeah. Which is also something that will lead into like the other point too, that a lot of like the engine designs and whatnot too. We could say this is also why supercars are so important too, like i.e. McLaren, like McLaren's, Koenigsegg, Maserati, or actually not Maserati, my bad. No, that's a shit car company. Never mind. Fuck, I was trying to think of it. Lotus? Are they still existing?
They still exist. They don't. They're making. They don't. I don't even know what they make. I know they're gonna come out with an EV, but that's about it.
Well, anyways, all the supercar brands too. Now, this is a fun question I want to ask all of you guys. What is your favorite supercar brand?
Supercar
Koenigsegg.
brand?
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Only because there's too many options, or a lot of options do not appeal to you?
There's too many options I can't choose from.
Nah, don't worry, I'll choose for you. It's the fucking Skyline GTR.
That's not even a fucking. That's
Yeah,
just
they're
a
not even
fucking tuner, bro. Car,
They're
right?
not in a supercar, bro. Come on, man.
I
Just
know.
a fucking tuner. To import.
Well.
It's merely Nissan. Come on.
You could
Take a
technically
shit.
say, look, you could technically say all supercars are imports because we haven't had an American supercar for a while, actually.
No, we do. We have Hennessy. Hennessy Venoms are one of
Oh,
them.
oh yeah, that's right. But don't they mostly focus on trucks? Or I could be wrong on that.
No, they're super. They make hypercars, bro. They're like
Uh,
Bugatti competing cars.
Never mind then. I take back my statement. Oopsies.
I think
What?
Hennessy's a Texas company.
I'll have to look at
If
that
I'm not
later.
mistaken.
I'll look up
But yeah.
on that later. But really, like, I guess my preferred choice of like supercar, it would also have to be Koenigsegg as well. Me and Victor have watched extensive like the CEO's statements too. The man is a fucking like actually mad genius when it comes to
Yeah,
like how he ran it.
I think Koenigsegg is literally the only car company I see with true innovation.
Yeah. What was like the specs of like their hybrid engine for the Gamera, if you remember the top of your head, Victor?
The Mera is a 2-liter 3-cylinder engine that produces 600 horsepower. That's just from the engine alone. The entire car produces 1,700 horsepower through, I think, 3 electric motors.
Yeah, because tell me otherwise. You look at that shit, I was like, how the fuck is this 3-liter or 3-piston engine able to produce already that much amount of horsepower, where that typically is like around like a V8 level spec, or even close to a V10?
Yeah, around V10, a Lamborghini Gallardo is a V10 car that produces 500, actually, I think 600 nowadays, 600 some horsepower. And that's a 5-liter V10 engine.
Yeah. And with like the Gamera and like the Koenigsegg's like engines that they made for it too, it was mind blowing on like how they were able to produce it. Obviously, what they did was the fact that they increased the size of the piston itself, which was, kind of makes sense too. But it was the actual way of like how they were able to get the most amount of power from that. Still was in this case their whole like software and hardware electronic systems that would monitor like the ideal like combustion. Like it got to like super detailed. Yeah. Apparently it's open source too. People could actually like make it themselves. Use the whole free valve system.
They don't have They don't have a traditional valve system. It's all digitally controlled. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's way too many. The Koenigsegg Gemera is truly a technological marvel, bro. It's absolutely insane. It's a 4-seater. If you
Yeah.
can imagine that shit.
Yeah, yeah, it's a 4-seater supercar. Who has ever heard of such?
4-seater supercar, 1700 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
It may not like be like the level of pedigree of the Bugatti like Veyron, but the fact of the matter is like compared to a lot of supercars, I actually like the way how like Gemera like innovated itself by not giving itself not just like more engine piston powers to make up for like horsepower. No, they just find like
Funny
other
thing
ways.
Funny thing is, acceleration wise, Koenigsegg is faster than Bugatti, but
Oh, shit.
top speed is Bugatti is much faster. Has a higher top speed than Koenigsegg's.
Oh, I guess it makes sense because it does use like triple electric motor systems. Like the electric motors are like at the pretty much the rear wheels where a lot of the power gen goes into, right?
Yes, it's those two rear motors and one front motor. And this front motor isn't they're not like purely they don't work by themselves. They work with the transmission, and the transmission is a 9-speed, what they call light speed transmission, which has 7 clutches, if you believe that.
Holy fuck.
It's a 9-speed transmission with 7 clutches. Insane. Too insane.
I want to ride in it. That's the takeaway of all this. I want to ride in one. If there's ever a car show that actually features a Koenigsegg Gemera, I would want to ride in it. If there ever is such case. Or we gotta fucking move up to like Switzerland. Oh wait, was it Koenigsegg Switzerland or Sweden? Sweden. We gotta go up to Sweden to like go to test drive that shit.
Mm.
God.
Yeah, like the Gemera is truly a technological marvel that no other car company can match. It's a true innovation right there.
If anything, I feel like the innovation alone is the fact that it's the free valve system. I think we may see those a lot more.
Car, bro. The whole car.
I know the whole car. I know the whole car itself is the innovation. But I think what other car companies can do right now is probably adopt the free valve system. Right? At least that one might be doable. But my God, like,
yeah,
just thinking of like how to actually do that is insane.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all computer controlled, so you just gotta understand how the system works, and then just write a proper program for it. You know?
Yeah. How long does it take to understand that system properly? Like where you have to like time the explosions.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
I mean that. I mean, you can time the. I mean, not really time the explosion, but you know what cycle the piston is in, then you'll know when to inject like
the adequate amount of fuel. And
yeah.
Oh man. that was a whole rabbit hole of like us like looking into the whole car company themselves, and like the CEO's just like an egghead. I don't know. Anytime I see a CEO with like a bald head, dude, they either succeed really well, or they're also the most almost a James Bond level villain I've seen looks at Jeffrey Bezos.
Yeah. It's always the bald CEOs.
Yeah, always the bald CEO. I don't know. He has that head that I'm not slap, but I want to like basketball like grip its head. Or like palm it.
Damn, bro.
I know, this boy wild, bro.
Like okay, that might have been a bit off of it, but I feel like this could be a good note to end off of here. Sorry for like the early technical issues I've had here. Didn't know like 2 weeks away from streaming fucked up everything here. Goddamn. Technically, it was just 1 weekend, but really, it felt like 2 weeks for me in my end here. Any last words that you guys want to say?
Not really.
Not really? Well, that's the case then. We'll see you all in the next stream. Well, actually, what do you guys want to talk about for next week too? I guess we could do
Oh,
the
man.
extension. We could do the extension part 2 of like now we do walkable cities. That sounds the most boring topic out there, but I'm also gonna make it much more enjoyable because I have a lot of shit to say about that.
Yeah, let's do it. We can do walkable cities.
Yeah.
But America definitely needs more of those kind of cities, bro. Like
Yeah.
driving a car everywhere, having to drive a car everywhere you need to go to is kind of
Pain in the
annoying
ass.
sometimes. Sometimes you just want to walk to your destination, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, next week podcast will just be a Cars Talk Part 2. But this time with
Cars
more
talk
emphasis.
that will stem into a walkable,
Yeah.
or cars talk that will stem into why we shouldn't have any more cars.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next week. See ya.
See ya. Good night.
Good night.